It did shock me also. This was the first year that we had actually started breaking down for the custom coater market. And when I saw this slide, I had to call up the consulting company that was doing all the research for us. And I questioned him on it. I said, really? And he said, yeah, that's what they are finding. And in North America by itself, there was over 6,000 that they had in just North America. And
welcome to episode 8. I'm Kim Scott, your host of the Powder Coater podcast, Ross Coates Powder Coater podcast, where we interview influencers and industry and in the industry and cover trending topics so powder coaters can effectively learn and grow their business. Today, we're talking about the state of our industry with someone who has their hands knee deep in it. Kevin Coursin is the executive director of the Powder Coating Institute. He's here to share some insights and highlights from the recent annual meeting. I'd like to tease out from him some of the broader strokes from the data he presented in the hopes of giving you a bigger picture of our industry and what it may mean for you. Hi, Kevin. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kim. Thank you for inviting me.
So how long have you been working in the industry and how did you get started?
Well, I've actually been in the paint industry for about 38 years now. Long time ago, after I graduated from college with my engineering degree, I started working at one of the General Motors assembly plants, and being just a plant engineer working on various projects. A boss came up to me after 2 years and said, "Kevin, I got good news, giving you a 10% raise." And I was extremely happy with that. He said, "But you're going third shift. You're going to be the maintenance supervisor in the paint shop." And that's how I was introduced to paint. Now, it was liquid paint. It wasn't powder back then that they had, but I learned a lot about the processes, about the equipment, and what it took to maintain it. So it was quite an education for 2 years. After that, he came up to me and said, "Hey, Kevin, you're an engineer and you're in paint. There's a new plant we're building in Michigan. We would like you to transfer over there, give you a promotion, and you're going to install a new paint shop." And I went and took it, and it was, again, quite an education that we had put together and working with a group. So I learned how to design, how to build, and manage putting it all in and starting it up. After that, the market wasn't as good in the automotive market, so I decided to change a little bit of direction, and I went to work for one of the system houses as a project manager, and worked myself into general manager of sales, and eventually became president of KMI Systems. So I've done a lot over the years. Just recently here, in beginning of February, I started at the Powder Coating Institute as the executive director.
Well, that's quite an exciting career. And I find that most of the people that have been into it as long as, 30 plus years or more, 40, y'all kind of start in paint, liquid painting, that is. And it all kind of happens with that, and then it moves into powder. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it depends which direction that you go into. I mean, I again, when I first started, that's when powder coating was really at its infancy, so it wasn't as much out there. And the automotive had been primarily liquid, so that's where my experience came. Then when I came over and started working in the systems houses, that's where I started learning about powder, and both in just regular powder paint. I learned about powder porcelain enamel, but also did some liquid systems as well. So did multiple different types of systems depending on what the customer wanted to install at the plant. So I had a very broad education on a lot of paint equipment.
So PCI recently had their annual meeting on the state of powder coating. Is there anything that stood out to you from the data that really intrigued you the most?
Well, I think on the overall market data that it was there, when you see it globally, the powder market itself is a little over $10.4 billion. And and it sounds like a huge number by itself. But when you compare it against all the other types of coatings that are out there, whether it's house paint, auto refinish, trailers, industrial market, that type of thing, it's only just a little under 7% of the overall coatings market. The largest market itself out there is really the decorative, which is really the house paint, both external and internal. That liquid paint type thing is the biggest market itself. So when you compare powder to just that, it sounds like, we're only a tiny little sliver. But when you compare the powder coating to other, like industrial liquid coating, which is only about 8% of the market, or wood liquid coating is 7%. So that's exactly the same as powder. But powder even exceeds the auto OEM, the original equipment suppliers or manufacturers' use of it. And the auto refinish is about 6%. So when you compare the powder to those other type markets, well, we have been growing over the years and have taken more and more of it. So it is still a growing market.
Yeah, I found that right off the cuff. I found that really intriguing and encouraging too. Now, on slide 11, in 2019, North America and Europe had negative growth rates, and that was in the automotive production, flat construction market, and a flat manufacturing environment is what this slide is talking about. And I found that really intriguing because, they were kind of saying that we were headed for a slowdown in late 2019, but no one really knew what the news articles were referencing. And really, you can kind of say that powder was already giving us an indicator that we were heading for a slowdown. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. And what the slide there was working more on the annual basis, but if you would have broken it down in the data that they had on the quarterly basis, you could see that at the beginning of 19, things were moving along pretty well, but it definitely tailed down at the end of 2019. So, you could see that on a quarterly basis. So it was a pretty good indicator of things that were up and coming.
Yeah, and just to kind of continue on to slide 12, and I don't want to drill down too deep because, some of the smaller coaters like ourselves, we're not really experiencing too much of a slowdown locally. I think that the larger coaters are, industrial coaters and line coaters and stuff. Those, they are probably the ones that are being affected more on the higher points of the market, which they're just basically saying that we were down 1.5%, and overall the year will be down anywhere from 5 to 15%, which is pretty much in line with what national projections are for America in general, for the economy.
Correct. Yeah, and again, it can be, vary by market. And in, like you said, some of the markets that you're in, you haven't seen as large of a hit. But in some of the markets that if you were dealing directly for an automotive supplier as a tier 1 or tier 2, and that was the bulk of your work, they took a really big hit in quarter 2 this year because they had shut down all the assembly plants. So they definitely took a larger hit than there. But the overall average, when you take them all into account, it's probably 10 to 15% down from the market. But again, some are doing better, some are not doing as well. So it really is how diversified you are or how tight you are to a single market.
I think one of my favorite slides is slide 20 because it really starts to dig down deeper into the overall custom coater market. And I was shocked by this figure on this slide when it basically said that globally there are over 42,000 custom powder coaters out there. Did that number shock you?
It did shock me also. This was the first year that we had actually started breaking down for the custom coater market. And when I saw this slide, I had to call up the consulting company that was doing all the research for us And I questioned him on it. I said, really? And he said, yeah, that's what they are finding. And in North America by itself, there was over 6,000 that they had in just North America. And even that number, for just North America sounded quite large. Now, what they don't define is how large of a company it is. So that would include some of the very small custom coder, little job shops that are out there. Now, they might only be coding a few wheels at a time, but I think they're included in those numbers. So sometimes that big number, you got to take a little bit with a grain of salt, and this did not dive down or do a bigger breakdown into, call it the size of the company. We hope to do that into next year to try and get a better picture of the various sizes of custom coders and, how many there are in different markets and what the revenue in those markets would be.
Yeah, and just to note that on this slide, the definition of a custom coder is a company that primarily custom codes. That is it, and that's if they are manufacturing a part and then powder coating it, that part for another client, they're not considered a custom coder. So that, and they, on top of that, if they were to include those people, that number would double to the amount of custom powder coaters out there. That's extraordinary.
Yeah, it is a big number. And it's something, it just goes to show how large of a market it overall is. Even if you just break it down into North America or the U.S., there is quite a big group of those type companies out there. So anybody into that market, or you may think you have competitors, but to say that you have 6,000 other ones, it can be a little bit leery. But we got to dig a little bit deeper into some of the numbers to break it down into size, because there are some very large powder coaters, but there's also some very small ones. So breaking that range is going to be our next step to try and get a little bit better, meaningful data.
Yeah, I think that's going to be great for us all. And I really like slide 21 because the majority of custom coders are using stock colors, and that's like RALs, right?
Yeah, just off the shelf, nothing special. And if you think really, when you get into a lot of the custom coders, they're offering a slate to a bunch of companies or people, if they want something done special, and they're not going to custom and get a formulation because they're only spraying so small amount of it. And I think that's where the stock colors are pretty much the standard wear for them to use.
Yeah. Now on the same slide, it says certifications play some role in the process. Are they talking about like PCI ones only, or just all kinds of certifications that are out there?
No, there are a number of certifications that are out there. PCI is one of them that we have on the market. There are some others that can be done. And in fact, even some manufacturers have what they call their certification program. If you're coding a product directly for them, they may have their spec, and they'll come and even audit the facility to make sure that you are meeting their certification. So it can depend a little bit. There's a lot of certification requirements out from the Department of Transportation in a lot of states. So, you have to get a certification. One might be from PCI, or it could be from one of the other areas that they may have in order to be able to coat and provide product to them.
After this presentation was over, I started to think about what was presented on those slides and what it all meant for me, which is why I prompted to call you for an interview, because I wanted to know, like, with powder supplies and global supply chains at risk now regarding China and the economy right now facing all nations, not just some, but all. What does that mean for me as a powder coater, especially a small guy? Is it going to be harder for me to get powders someday? Is pricing going to go up? What does that mean?
Well, I guess that can be always a potential issue that could occur of getting, and it may be a particular color because there is a raw material that might be coming from China, and there's if it's a political dispute, there may be a short breaking the action while they're trying to solve it. It could be also from shipping standpoints, how long it might take to be able to get some of those colors. It is an issue that's out there, but I still think overall the world has gotten smaller and everybody is, has to sell to other people. So there may be some short-term as the politicians deal with issues, but overall we want to sell to China and China wants to sell to us. So that it still does everybody good to keep the commerce, so to speak, flowing.
Well, I agree with that. I hope it does mean that. And because in the end, people are just people, right? We all want to do and continue about our business. So now the other part of this was that got me thinking was like this reshoring of manufacturing in the United States. I mean, with potentialities of shortness in the market, what does this reshoring of manufacturing, I don't even know if you can speak on it or if you know much about it. What does it all mean for us here, if you know and can comment on that?
Well, we definitely have seen a number of companies coming in to do reshoring and bringing manufacturing back to the States. I think a lot has to do that when a lot of these global companies were able to bring their money that they had over back into the States. They are doing more investment here. Some of the issues that you were talking about on the global supply chain disruptions, they feel if they bring it back here, they have more control over it. So they're hedging their bet a little bit to bring it here. So I think it is going to be, you're going to see more of a continue, again, once we get through the pandemic side that we have here, that's put a little bit of pause on some things, but I think you'll see it pick back up again, bringing more manufacturing plants into the States.
Well, that's good. I think it'll be positive for both the smaller guys growing bigger and maybe some of the other guys, sharing some of those jobs for us. Now at Maui Powder Works, we've been a member of PCI since 2017. And we joined primarily because it's a legislative body and because we felt that it was important for us to become part of a greater community of coders, as well as to uphold higher standards in the industry in terms of coding and what we're bringing about in our product line. But what is PCI and why should other custom coders become a member?
Well, the Powder Coating Institute, I mean, it is a group of suppliers and users that have come together. Number one goal is that we want to grow the powder coating market itself. But in doing so, we recognize that there's steps that have to go along with that to make sure it happens. One of them is educating the industry. The PCI has a number of workshops and webinars. We work on standards. We have events like the Powder Coating Week that we put on, again, for education and where people can interact and network. We have our technical publications. We have the Powder Coating Tough magazine, which is exclusively published for the powder coating market itself, and a lot of it good articles, learning new things, how to do some items there. We actually are working on the 5th edition of the Powder Coating Handbook. It's in the final editorial revisions right now, and it looks like we'll be releasing it in early January next year. And it's upgraded with all the latest and greatest and new technologies that are out there. Sort of a one-stop if you're a powder coater and you want to learn something or find out if you're having a problem, you can go to it as a handbook. So those are the big things that we want to work on from a PCI standpoint. The other thing we do is we do have our certification program. Again, we talked a little bit about it before, but it's really a quality program. We want to make sure that the processes that are being used are being controlled and you're doing what you say you're going to do and have all the proper training and documentation so you can make sure you're very consistent going through it. But I think for the end users that are certified, with the quality program, they do get more consistent and better quality out. It does save them money in the long run because they have less downtime and can produce more through the system itself.
Yeah, and I think one of the most, or two of the most underrated things about PCI that maybe people know or don't know is even if you're not a member and you have a troubleshooting question or a problem that you need help solving in your powder line, you can actually write the PCI or the Powder Coating Institute write to you, and you will actually help try to troubleshoot that problem for that coder. That's true, right?
Oh yeah. We do get inquiries in, via email, or there's actually a contact us on our website, and we get things in. I actually received one today, and it does come to me, so I'm the first person that looks at it. It happened to be from an architect, and he had an issue on how to do some touch up for powder coating product that was out in the field. And so I was able to go out to some of our powder suppliers with this particular issue. I get back some results from them, and then I send back and say, here's something that you can do. Just one little example of what we do, and but we get a number of them throughout the year.
And I think the other underrated thing, or the thing that I was shocked, I learned this at the Custom Coder Forum when I went a couple years ago, is that you actually have this thing called peer groups. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. No, I'm one of the facilitators for one of the groups, so I am intimately involved with it. And it really is right now. It's jointly sort of managed between the Powder Coating Institute and the Chemical Coaters Association. But we have three groups. They're built of up to 10 companies, and we set them up so that they're non-competing. They're in different locations throughout the U.S., different markets, but they are all doing the one thing that's sort of common. They're applying powder coating to product. So with that in mind, we meet twice a year. Typically at one of the companies hosts it, and the other individuals come in there, and it's 2 days we're at the plant. We actually do an audit. We walk around and then give and put it into a paint term. It's an unvarnished information back to the company and of what they found, and it's meant to be informative and to help them improve. Likewise, when you are one of those individuals that you go to the plant and you do the audit, while you're walking around, you may see something that you really like and you go, that's a great idea. I can take that and incorporate that back into my operation. And the individuals that have been part of this find it very good, both, from a quality standpoint of learning new things, how to do it, but they also then they come to know each other and trust each other, so they can send out an email. I've got this kind of problem. Anybody experienced this before? And get some information back from them. So it is a very good program. Like I say, we have three groups right now. We are in the process of forming our fourth group. So we hope we have several that have expressed interest, and we hope to find enough more that starting sometime in 2021, we can get another group going.
Yeah, I was, of course, everybody was trying to get me on their group, and I think it wasn't because we were exceptional coders. It was just that we were in Hawaii, and people got to fly out and stay with us, I guess, and check out what we have. So they were like, "Oh no, you want to join my group? No, join my group." So it was, but I really felt like, wow, this is so much more than what I had anticipated as being a member of PCI. Was to have this opportunity to do that, and get to know possibly other coders that have been in the game a little longer than I have or bigger than me, and how can I scale my business too? It seemed intriguing to me, but also just having that shoulder to lean on, or get confident with, if they're going to come and take a look at what I have. It kind of keeps you on your toes. But I think it's a great program that you guys need to maybe get out a little bit more, because it seems interesting to maybe be a member of that.
Yeah, we've only really we've got 2 years of it under our belt. This would have been the third year, but we've had to cancel both meetings, the spring and the fall meetings, because of the issues that we've had with the COVID this year. So really next year will be, I guess, a repeat. So we'll call it year 3 still. So we are trying to grow it, and we are trying to figure out how we can get the word out to people. And we appreciate you bringing it up, because I think with your podcast, again, it's just another way of getting the information out to people, and maybe they'd get interested to be able to find out some more about it.
Yeah. So now, as executive director, I know this is a new role for you. What do you hope to accomplish with PCI in the coming years, or rather, what do you want PCI to become in the future?
Well, I guess as the executive director, I got a couple items that are, number 1 and 2 on my list is to grow the powder coating industry and increase membership for the Powder Coating Institute. But that's just I think the ultimate goal. If we provide the service, I think all that will come with it. But we would like to, I want to add and improve the education, webinars, things like that, and like updating the Powder Coating Handbook. Again, getting that out to our members so that they can use that to improve their equipment and their systems. I would like to, as you mentioned before, the peer group, we'd like to grow those to more groups themselves, because we really think it's important. And it's a really nice thing for custom coaters to do. I'd like to increase the certifications, both for the custom coaters as well as the OEMs. We think that's a good quality program that's really specially made for the powder coating industry, that is, probably very cost effective overall from training and learning and making sure that you can do it. And a lot of them use it from a marketing standpoint, because they can say that they are certified and try and get additional business. The other areas that I think we're going to be doing some more work in, and we've started this year on, is trying to develop more into the alternative substrates like wood and MDF or plastic and ceramics. We think powder coating can really grow into those markets, which primarily have been done in the liquid. But we can do it more efficiently. And we've got a committee that's dedicated to right now that we're working on to develop some technical data, some brochures and everything on that. The other areas in the architectural market, for all the architecture that's coded and all that, the specifying of that comes from architects. And we're trying to work right now with another association that specifically markets to those for developing specs, but they don't have any spec whatsoever to talk about powder coating. So as an industry, we're going to work on it and sort of hand it to them and say, insert this into your standards. And again, trying to get people to not only grow and choose powder, but also to do it right.
Now, in 2021, in February 23rd through the 26th in Orlando, Florida, you guys are going to have your custom coater forum. But incorporating in that is sort of earlier on in the week, you guys have the coating workshops. They're Powder Coating 101 workshops. The basics is what this is called. And I went in 2018. I didn't go to the workshop. I kind of flew in as a presenter and just attended the Custom Coater Forum. But I was amazed at how many people were actually in that room getting and learning that Powder Coating 101. It was full.
Yeah, we in this past February, we had the 75 people that were in for that workshop alone. And it's a 2-day workshop, and that runs concurrent with the Custom Coater Forum. And again, there we have typically around 40 to 50 custom coaters, and there's a whole set of speakers and tracks that are dedicated to the custom coater market and companies and some of it is business, some of it is, we had some roundtable discussions, and we also have some technical presentations. And for 2021, we've got the program pretty well all set up, and have some great speakers coming in, and we're going to be talking about certification and peer groups. Again, just trying to educate those on there. But we have someone coming in to talk about automation for custom coders. We have another individual that's going to be talking about troubleshooting and different ways to do that and solve problems. So we're trying to tack different areas and be helpful and very meaningful for someone that's coming in there to spend their time in there. After that, we do have 2 days that follow, which is we call our technical conferences. And there we have papers on everything from batch coding to automation to new technologies. So there's a lot of different sessions that you can pick and choose which one you're interested in going to. And while that's going on, we do also have tabletop exhibits that the suppliers will be there. I think we currently have like 74 suppliers. We'll hopefully gain a few more that are going to be coming in. Done during lunch hour, where lunch is served right among there, so you can eat and walk around and talk and network and learn what's new from the various suppliers. Or if you got a problem, go see a supplier and he'd be probably more than willing to help you out.
If you think it's going to be boring, it's not. I wasn't sure what to expect that first year I went, and it was amazing. We had one speaker was from Mighty Hook. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I was amazed that he had a solid hour and it wasn't boring at all. I mean, it went really fast, and how he could talk about just hooks in an hour. I mean, he was a true expert. We're not sponsored by Mighty Hook today, just so you know. I'm not pushing them in any way, but I was just floored at how much he could talk about hooks and all the different ways to use it. So it's cram packed. It's always exciting and new, and you get to you get to meet the owners of the companies that are there, like Stephen from IFS. And then they're not just sitting up on a pedestal in their group. They actually, in the evenings, you go to the bar or the lobby or whatever, and you get to have a personal conversation with them too. It's not just that it's not cut and dry, I guess.
They're always everyone that attends there. You do have the industry experts. So I mean, if you have some things or you want to learn some things, they're there. And believe me, most like myself, we all like to talk. So if you come up to them, they'll share, they'll help, they'll do whatever you can, and or come up to me, and if someone's got a problem, I can point out someone that you should probably go see and talk to. But it is a great event, and it's well worth the time there. And I know it's a struggle for everybody to get out of their business to go to this, but believe me, it is worthwhile.
Yeah, and the location, I mean, the Renaissance Hotel there, that was really nice. I was impressed. I really liked that hotel, and it seemed like a lot of the coders were going to meet their family later that week to go to Disney World and Universal and SeaWorld and stuff like that. So I think it's a great location to have that because it can, you can either cut and run and go home,
Yeah, especially like individuals like myself that come from the Midwest, they have to go to Florida for a few days. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was like, "Oh, don't leave, Kim. What do you mean you're not staying for the technical conference?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I didn't know there was this other thing, So I just came in for the custom coder thing, but everybody was like, "No, stay with us," So it was. It seemed like I was kind of bummed actually that I had to leave, but. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to next year too. So it sounds like it might be happening. If the world doesn't come to an end, it will happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, thanks for joining us today, Kevin. I really learned a lot more about PCI, especially with the slides from the presentation. I thought it's very nice of you guys at PCI to share this data with others that may or may not be in PCI. And so how can coders get a hold of you, like if they have questions?
Probably the easiest way to get a hold of me would be to just send me an email. It's kevin@powdercoating.org. Otherwise, on the website, there is the office number that you can always reach me through that also.
That's great. We'd also like to thank our supportive followers and fellow powder coaters out there. I hope you've learned something new about your powder coating business. Please comment, share, or follow us on this podcast. And if you have a topic that you would like to discuss, just email us at info@mauipowderworks.com.